Hi, you are live with Lila and
Jeff Lawrence.
hi, Jeff.
Hi, Lila.
I am scared out of my socks to do this session with you because you have this reputation. I don't know if you've heard. You know anything about that? Like what people say about
I know
you?
what they say. I think it's completely overblown. I'm not. I'm a gentle teddy bear. Don't worry about it.
Oh,
I do like to cut to the chase, so we may have to cut to the chase.
yeah.
But
I'm good with that. I'm a New Yorker, and
right,
that pace is very much part of me. So, to just give the audience here a little bit of what that chase is, we are here today because I have been stuck in this, what we're calling a hamster wheel of activity, 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 activity. And anybody who goes on my LinkedIn profile and looks at my about section, you'll see up next, followed by activity, 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 activity. But are my activities actually leading me and say things better towards my goal of transforming the way everybody in the world communicates? I don't know. So Jeff is here to help me. He has advised senior executives across multiple sectors for over 25 years. Jeff, you've taught leadership at Harvard, no big deal, right? Plus Oxford and Warwick and Northeastern Universities. So some of you in the audience may have heard of these places, and they only choose the best. So do I. And that's why Jeff is here, because if thousands of the world's greatest leaders have been trained by Jeff, then I want to count myself among them. So thank you, Jeff, for joining me.
You're very welcome. Nice to be here.
Thank you, audience, for being here for me as I lay it all out there. No holds barred. This is all honest, and you are about to witness a real live coaching session with a master pattern interrupter. So I'm all yours. You're leading this. Coach me. Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's frame it, because I do want to make a distinction between activity and productivity. And the distinction is productivity is applied effort in pursuit of a particular outcome or accomplishment. Activity is just staying busy. And the danger is we use the hamster wheel analogy because for a lot of people, it's the same thing. When the hamster gets on the wheel in the cage, I don't think he's going anywhere. I don't think he has the ambition to go anywhere, but it calms him down. And so we want to distinguish between that comment, which can be very therapeutic, but it's just not the same as productivity. And so it'd be helpful to me if you would describe, as you just did, you began to about the here's a post and next and next and next and next and next. What is it that you're not reaching or getting done that gives you a notion that it's just the hamster wheel? How are you experiencing the difference?
Part of it is revenue. I'm making enough money to be profitable. I can live and have dinner and buy health insurance and stuff like that, but that's not where I need to be in order to feel financially like I am in abundance, like I can give as much as I really want to. Right. I feel like I can't because I have to be doing revenue generating activities, and I'm not really money motivated. I just know I need to have money. So that's one thing, is I know that a lot of my activity is not revenue generating. Okay. I have all kinds of excuses for that.
I'm not really interested in the excuses, because I think we all have a story we tell ourselves so we can sleep at night about, I'm doing God's work. I'm doing the best I can. Nobody else trying to do what I do could do as well as I'm doing. So I don't want to get caught up in that. I am interested in what is the gap, as much as you can measure it, between where you are and where you need to be. Are we talking about a 10% differential? Are we talking about a 20% differential? Is it a big gap or a small gap?
It's a big gap. It's a big gap. I make enough money now that I've replaced what I made working for someone else in corporate. Right. But I'm not making enough that I can hire other people onto my team would be, a priority. So I'm not able to scale and grow past me plus contractors. Right. And so if I'm not able to trust that I have people there to work in support of me and my goals and say things better, then there's only so much that I'm willing to aim for. So I'm aiming at the level that I can achieve on my own, and it's keeping me in this cycle.
Right. So if I were to look at a copy of your calendar, your diary, as it were, and sort of monitor a typical week for you, not a weird one, or I know we're in weird times here in COVID, but a typical week
No,
for you,
yeah.
what is first? What's the work day like? Is there a consistent pattern to it, or does it vary from day to day in a significant way?
There are some things that are consistent. Just in the last year, I've become more aware of when I'm productive with certain things.
Yeah.
Like I know if I'm doing creative writing for a
Mhm.
client, like let's say I'm doing somebody's email campaigns and I'm writing the actual copy for that. I want to do that first thing in the morning
Okay.
when that part of my brain. So if I'm going to be and I can do that, then I do that right away, first
Okay.
thing in the morning. I've been going for walks every day, early in the morning, or some kind of exercise before the day really begins. So
Hmm.
those things are consistent for me.
Yeah.
Everything else is a crapshoot, and a
Okay.
lot of it is shooting crap.
Right. I infer that from your description. I'm curious about the those things you were talking about, the writing copy and doing email campaigns. I assume that's the revenue generating stuff that you do
Yeah, it makes me more well. So right now, it
right now.
makes me more money than the work that I also do, which is really more of my heart work. So I had been doing really well prior to COVID in building a name for myself and
Mhm.
experience and getting hired by companies to do training workshops for hundreds of people, of
Yep.
leaders, and that is what I want to be doing.
Okay.
But their priorities shifted. And so when that revenue stream kind of like paused, I pivoted and I was like, well, I'll just do more of the stuff that I know I can do to make money.
Yeah.
And so that's been good to bring in money to allow me to do more of my other heart work on the side.
Yeah.
I'm
All right.
doing that
Well,
other stuff as just pay what you want workshops every month.
yeah. Okay. And your sense is the COVID stuff that went away, the hundreds of people workshop, is that an opportunity in the virtual world, or is it a live thing that can't be replicated in the virtual world?
It's
I mean, is
it's
it really
both.
gone or it shifted? Is I guess my
It's
question.
there were two big things that I was doing that have turned virtual.
Yeah.
One is the Sales Mastery Summit. I was supposed to fly to Los Angeles, and instead I'm doing this virtually.
Hmm.
And same with ATD, the Association for Talent Development. I was going to be flying to Fargo, North Dakota, and instead we're just changing a few things about it to make it virtual.
Right.
So yeah, it is. It is work that I can do and do enjoy doing and have been doing virtually.
Yeah.
But companies' budgets seem to have changed, or I'm just in the wrong conversations. Is possible, and their focus has changed. It seems to be harder for me to get that kind of work right now. So I
Okay.
just have to note, at least with the same approach. So I'm open,
All
but
right.
that is what I've noticed.
So we've identified sort of three or four buckets of activity. The first is the heart work that it's really about your passion. It's where you want to take your business, right?
Yes.
That's the
Yes.
big scale stuff that does have some promise virtually, but for some reason, you don't know why. A couple theories, but you're not sure. You don't know
Right.
why.
I don't have certainty on that.
All right. Then there's a second group, which is activity, which does generate revenue, but I get the sense from you that's sort of minimal ceiling, hard to get traction, hard to generate the kind of money you're talking about. That's like your old life
Yeah. Yeah. I
business.
mean, like I can make a few $1,000s doing an email campaign kickoff for
Right.
somebody, like setting their stuff up. I can make a few $1,000s with helping people with LinkedIn, or a few $1,000s doing a 4-session coaching package
Right.
but that's not the money I'm talking about. Like I'm not
No.
talking about $100,000. I'm talking
Right.
about like $1 million. So I'm at 10% probably of where I want to be in terms of bringing in the revenue that would help me to grow at the scale that I really need to.
Okay. And then you mentioned going for walks. And what else goes into what you called the crap shoot? What else happened to your day once you got rolling?
um,
I just wonder where your time goes
procrastinating,
now.
right?
So, sorry.
Procrastinating.
Yeah.
So like procrastinating for people in the audience who don't know that word is what it sounds like. Procrastinating by giving myself tasks that seem justifiable. It's so important,
Right.
Level one, phone calls from people that I care about, that I feel a sense of urgency about having right now. Sometimes, for example, my dad sent a text to me and my brother saying, hey, I'm okay, but I need to jump on a Zoom call with both of you. When is the soonest? Something like that.
Yeah.
So of course I was like, he said I'm okay, right? But I'm not going to believe that if there's a
Right.
sense of urgency and it has to be face to face. So anyway, we worked it out, but it's things like that that pull on me emotionally that make
Mhm.
me feel like this must happen right now. And I have that pull for a lot of things I care about. Phone calls, showing up
So
to support other people.
well, so it's that I was going to say. So I don't imagine your dad calls you daily. He does call, and this
Right.
one incident that was concerning. And is there?
No, he has a pattern of doing that.
He doesn't matter. So
When he
that's
reaches out. He
okay.
wouldn't, maybe, if I would be more consistent in reaching out to him.
Right.
But that
Well,
is
that's your contribution, but that's all right. I'm
right.
not.
Yeah.
I'm
But
really
it's
trying to
not
get
him
a
in
handle
some
on
way.
I'm trying to get a handle on what's an allocation of time and what's a sort of distractibility.
It's a pattern. It's a pattern I have
Yeah.
of someone I care
Yeah.
has something going on in their life. I feel called to show up in some way. That happens every day, regardless of whether it's my dad, my friends, whoever it is.
Right.
Yeah. My dad says I would if I could. He's here. Hi, Dad. Yeah, I called you out.
Hi,
I told
Dad. Yeah.
everybody
Right.
this is like absolutely like
Yeah.
the most, open that I would be. And I am. I'm not hiding anything. This is like, if you want real progress, you have to talk about the real stuff.
Right.
And Dad, I love you. I'm sure I should do a better job of whatever, but this is not about the shoulds. This is about what I'm doing right now.
No, and I don't think there's any of us who would imagine that we want you to be a less caring person. I'm a little suspicious of you've got to drop what you're doing and be the hero when you get those calls. I'm not
Right.
sure. I think that sounds like a really nice package to put, shiny object around. So it
Absolutely.
doesn't sound like you're just distractible. It sounds like, oh, I'm not distractible. I'm passionate Lila who will.
Absolutely. Right. It's that identity. Like any activity
Right.
that aligns with the identity I want to have for myself takes precedence, like that's aligned with my values of caring and love and connection.
Yeah.
I always do the activities that are in service of that immediate satisfaction of those values over
Right.
something that might maybe make me some money so that I could have more time to do those things. I'm aware
Well,
that it's short-sighted.
okay. Well, but I don't think it's fair to call it short-sighted. I think something
Okay.
else is going on. I think it's, I'm not, I don't really know. So I want to explore it a little more, but I
Okay.
suspect that it's a more comfortable role for you. And so in order to maintain, it's a nice hamster wheel example, because in order to maintain, you're going to respond immediately to people. I'm not really sure what that does to people other than know if I want attention from Lila, I just have to ask for it and she'll drop what she's doing, which isn't a very noble framing of that, but that's kind of what it sounds like. So right
That's
now
fair.
you're putting responsiveness to key people above focus in your business. Just
I'm
as
putting responsiveness to people who aren't key people above it too.
okay, so it's
There
sort of
are people, there are the people who are the closest to me, they come
yeah,
first.
yeah,
But there are comments on LinkedIn. I spend a lot of time like here, there, showing up for things that I know someone is doing, like just to support them.
yeah.
Um, to for people in a general community, which also is a value of mine. But it's not only for the people who are the most important to
Okay,
me. It is also for a lot of people.
okay. So that's a little that changes the game a little bit in how we frame this, because it seems more like a desire to be needed than it does a passion about being supportive of key people, which are different things.
I think
And
that's
in
true.
this case,
Yeah.
it sounds like the neediness is actually impeding your effectiveness as a business owner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My wanting to be seen as valuable and valid and like needed. I feel that if people like need me and rely on me and count on
Mhm.
me, that I will control the that relationship and that I won't lose it. Like it'll be part of, I'll
Right.
have it. Whether
Right.
that's like I'm extrapolating it to be like, oh, well, I'll have this whole audience,
Yeah.
40,000 followers who
Right.
then bring the people who then do the things. And I'm putting so much emphasis out here on the big umbrella that
Mhm.
I do lose focus on the things that are the most important.
Well, my friend Bob Keegan, who is the guy who's famous for the immunity to change model, that is the how do we get in our own way? He helped us understand why we don't succeed in New Year's resolutions. Talks about
Okay.
this, there's sort of competing commitments. So on the one hand, you have this, I want to be caring and responsive and a good friend.
Mhm.
And but there's this behavior of responsiveness that actually is eating away at your effectiveness. So
Yes.
you're trading availability for effectiveness. Just entertain me for a minute. If you didn't get back to people so quickly, what horrible thing do you think would happen?
I think if I didn't get back to people, I think that like honestly, if I didn't get back to people in the moment that they needed me, they would go and find their need fulfilled somewhere else.
Okay.
And therefore would become less reliant on me and therefore
Right.
would need me less and therefore would exit my life, my business, my community, um, you know,
Right.
the abandonment thing maybe, or
Right. So
something like that.
that's a great way to describe your own immune system. And the amazing part about the immune system is it's not a bad thing. It's just the drivers in your life that make you talented, helpful, effective with people have gotten you very far. I mean, you want more success, but you are successful now. Let's acknowledge that. That's being
Okay.
limited by this fear that if I'm not responsive, somehow they'll go someplace else. And
Yeah.
I think that the challenge with that is it's what we call an untested assumption. That is, you never really find out because you never fail to respond. So you're caught in this loop of responding and regretting it and responding and regretting it and responding. So one of the things I want to do out of this call is I want you to to have an above and below the line group of friends. So above the line is dad and the people that are like really vital.
My
Like
speed dial people. Like you don't mean
speed dial
clients,
people.
you mean
Okay.
like my life people.
Yeah. So speed
Okay.
dial people, they're above the line. They deserve responsiveness. Right.
Okay. Yes.
But I want everyone else below the line for you to pause and see if you can wait. Let's not be ambitious. Let's wait a couple hours. Let's finish the task round. Let's try some things. Because my guess is the only way you're going to convince yourself that this isn't really a danger to you is you've got to experience if I finish what I'm doing and then get back to that person, they're not going to abandon me. Or if I call them, I'd like to work it up until you get to them and say, look, I'm going to have a response parameter that, okay, speed dial people is, I'm not even sure speed dial people should be instantaneous, but let's start small and go big later.
Okay.
You can continue to respond to speed dial people as you do. I still think I'm suspicious that you're going to try to inflate your speed dial group.
I'll commit right now. I'll be honest. I'll show
Okay.
everybody who's on my speed dial.
How many? Well, just tell us how many.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8
Okay.
people.
Yeah.
People on my speed dial list, and I'll just be honest about this, are the people who are here. Dad, who's here, you're number 1.
Thanks,
there you
Dad.
go. He says
Yeah,
thank
all right,
you.
Dad, you're number 1. Woo!
Yeah. And then mom, brother, Chrissy, who's my sister-in-law, Kellen, Kristen, Molly, who's my roommate, and Leanne, who's been my best friend since I'm 5. And that's my entire speed dial right now.
Okay.
So if anyone's
that
not
group,
on that list, that's what I'm accountable to as above the
okay,
line.
so that group, if they call, you're going to take their call. You're going to
Yes.
respond to them right away. Okay, that's fair.
Or as soon as I possibly can,
Yeah, let's be
outside of an
realistic.
emergency. Yeah.
Right. No phone calls from the toilet, that kind of thing.
I don't know. I've done that,
Yeah, got to do something with your hands, right? So I
LinkedIn
think
user says, Jeff, could you live stream all your coaches' sessions? This is extremely valuable. Yeah, I agree. I'm happy to be the guinea pig. Yeah.
So let's separate the next strata of people is what I'm really concerned about. They're people that you care about, but they're not speed dial people. This is where the meat is for you in terms of gaining. So this group, again, I understand you're operating under the, if I don't respond to them, they'll find somebody else. And I, as a consultant, I know very well that sort of, we call it the helper trap. If I don't help them, someone else will help them and I'll be lost. So it's the good news is it's normal. The bad news is it's eating your lunch. So we've got to interrupt that pattern. And so I think that my experience is it doesn't mean much to wish it to be different. We actually have to begin to behave differently and let our belief system catch up.
Okay.
So I want you to run a series of experiments, which, and I think there's 2 ways you can do it. I'm not sure. I'd like to hear which one you find more appealing. One is that I'm going to carve out time for a task. And if anybody outside the speed dial group calls, I'm not going to interrupt the task under any circumstances.
Okay.
The other one is I'm going to wait until the next morning, or within 24 hours, I'll get back in. Yeah. Okay. So we're right at the edge here. That little gap is yeah. I think that's.
I'm up for doing something hard. I'm up for like taking the bigger leap. If it makes me gasp, I think let's go with that. Okay,
that's fair. That's admirable. But there's no glory in being. This is like some people say, well, I'm going to light my hair on fire and jump off the building to light the way for others. That sort of martyrdom model is not helpful. So I think if you want to find something scintillating, then say, okay, the things that come up today, I'm going to wait until tomorrow to get back to, is a big step for you. If you can't do that 3 or 4 days in a row, then I don't want you to give up. I want you to find a slightly smaller gap to try to tolerate, like end of the day or 2 hours or something. And then generally, I mean, the cliche is you got to do something 21 days in a row to make it a habit.
Right. I've heard that.
I think if you begin to feel that people will in fact wait for you, that it's not urgent, that the urgency is a product of your imagination, then it doesn't feel like you got to worry about that. You can worry about other things. But I think this is a really central thing for you to focus on. I don't want to give you 6 or 8 things, but if you just
this is very helpful, and I can commit to this. I also acknowledge that other people may absolutely have a sense of urgency about their needs, that they are feeling that urgency, that they do need me right now, and that also is not my responsibility. It's not my primary responsibility.
Right. Well,
so that's something that I'm going to have to get used to.
Right. In our work, no lives are at risk. So we're helping people do important things, but there is a context we need to keep on top of.
Right. No one is bleeding out of their eyeballs because I didn't respond to a DM. Right.
My email is a bit off. I'm dying. Quick, call me.
Right.
But I do want to spend just a minute focusing on thinking about your use of time, because you seem to be aware that early is your most productive, most creative time. And I think you ought to protect that. So I want you to try one more experiment. Okay. And that is, I'd love for you to think about, could you structure your day to take advantage of your superpowers, which would mean when you get up in the morning, you do creative work first, then you do less creative work, then you go for exercise. Now, the problem, I think you go early because, like most people, if we don't get it in early, we never get back to it. So
No,
it's
my problem is that I'm in Texas and it's 100 degrees. So
oh,
like
okay, that's
I'm
fair.
trying to beat the heat, you know. It's changing. It's starting to become kind of fall, but that's
Well,
what it's been. I would prefer to be exercising at like 4 in the afternoon
are we
or like,
we talking about
yeah.
going to the gym or going for a walk? What is
I
it?
would go to the gym again, like if I felt like it was safe,
Right.
I would go to, so things are a little bit different right now, but I like in the morning having the exercise to feel like I have a physical reminder of how healthy I want to be that day. So
Okay.
that's also
That's
part
fair.
of it for
Yeah,
me.
that's fair. No, I'm down with that. That's fine. Um, I do think that, and Justin calls it your golden hours. I like that expression.
Mhm.
I think what I'm trying to do is get you to focus your energy where it has the best opportunity to return something to you. So those golden hours, as Justin called them,
Mhm.
are your most productive time. I really want you to focus on revenue generating opportunities, and not
Okay.
just the little ones, low end, but how many of those can I schedule and fill that early morning time with? And I think that'll be just that practice of having you differentiate, because you're right. If you're getting paid $2,500 a piece, you need a ton of pieces to get to $1 million, which
Yeah.
you're only a person.
I'm
Um,
only, well, right. So I'm only one person. I could
right.
build out a team to do things the way that I do them. I ran a team of people who did marketing. So, but like I'm not at that place.
No, I think there's a saying I like that says, I wanted to change the world, so I decided to start with myself. I
Mhm.
think we really got to work on changing you before we begin to complicate it with other people. So if you can master
Yeah,
your
I think that's a good,
focus, then you're in a
um,
position to begin to say, okay, part of your focus time, because in order to include other people, the basic entrepreneurial model is you build a system that runs your business, and then you hire people to run that system. So you've got to be
yeah,
much
that's why
better.
that's why I'm so disconnected from it.
Right,
I
right,
hate systems. I hate being not the person. I
right,
want to be the person. I want
right,
to feel the thing with the people.
right.
And so every time I hear system and, having other and delegating, I'm like, no, I feel that loss. Like I'm giving away a baby.
Well, but it's true for everybody. I mean, most businesses, they're not started by entrepreneurs. They're started by entrepreneurs suffering from a technical seizure, and so they're technicians suffering from an entrepreneurial seizure. Sorry, I got that
Yeah,
backwards. But
I know
so
what you meant.
there's the story is the woman loves to make pies, so she wants to start a bakery because she loves to make pies. When she starts the bakery, she finds out she spends no time making pies.
Yeah,
So I think
that's
you got to be
exactly it.
clear.
Like an
Yeah,
artist who starts to sell painting. Yeah, that's
right.
exactly it.
So if you really want to be the person, then having a dream that involves hiring people is only going to be so that those people can get you to be in front of more people and be the person more often. But we've got to think about that. But until
Yeah,
you really master the person role that you want to be in, I don't think it makes any sense to add more people and more mouths to feed, which is what
right.
drove
It'll
me.
just be more, what did we call them? Below the line, like non-speed dial people.
It's not, it'll be the masses, it'll just be more people taking your time, more
Hmm.
stress for you because you got to make payroll. And so
Right.
now all of a sudden, is everybody working? Is everybody working hard enough? Is everybody taking the same care I care? They're treating all my speed dial people like they should? I mean, there's a whole level of challenge that I think once you master yourself won't be as big a deal as it would be now. So I think this is a staged approach. Is one, I'm going to work on personal mastery, and then I'm going to build a business that gives me more of what I want, which is put me in places where I can be the person for others.
Yeah.
See a lot of people and do a lot of things for them. We have a very specific thing we're going to do, because if your business doesn't make your heart sing, you're in big trouble.
Right.
Big trouble.
I'm in
And
a
then,
good position that I like doing all of the kinds of work that I'm currently doing. There's nothing that I'm doing now that I feel like, oh, I'm
that's right.
dreading,
Yeah.
this. So, but it's a difference I used to be in a place where I work, I hate it.
Yeah.
It already feels better. I do want to be in the place where I feel, yes,
Right.
every day. all day. And I know that I need a team of people doing the other stuff to get me to that place.
Right.
So I'm up for working on me first to get there.
I'm just going to say this to you because I want to plant a seed. I want you to rent this idea. Don't buy it.
Okay.
I think you need to be a little careful about loving everything you do, because if you love everything you do, you're going to keep doing everything you do. If you want to go from a couple thousand to 1 million, you're going to have to stop doing some things you do. And so what you found out is the system you built is perfectly aligned to produce a survivable income, but it's not the dream.
Right.
And so being in love with everything is actually a handicap to you, because some of this you've got to get away from to get to the $1 million opportunity. And I have no idea which. I have no idea which, but you can't keep what you're doing. If you keep doing what you're doing, you're going to be making a living and feeling like you're not getting there. That's what you created.
And I think I'm scared.
Huh?
I'm scared. I'm scared that I can feel like our mutual friend and connection, Kellen Barfield, who, by the way, is on my speed dial. I can feel her in the audience right now going, this is what I've been saying, you know, do more revenue generating, like go make the big money and then you can do the, you know, I can feel that. And what scares me about, even if that's right, and maybe especially if that's right, I'm scared to lose the love. I'm scared to lose that thing that fuels me to keep doing, I guess, a thing that's not working. So it's this. I'm afraid
that's the gilded cage. Yeah, that's the gilded cage. You love it, so you hang on to it, so it keeps you from growing.
It really is a hamster wheel.
It is. We have discovered the gilded hamster wheel.
That's mine. Oh, good. At least my hamster wheel is gilded.
Yeah.
You know, that's it.
A touch of something.
Yeah.
So
but I do want out.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's just step back then, because I think that's a bigger ambition. I think at first we're going to really focus on differentiating between the speed dial and everybody else.
Okay.
And the first experiment is, can I go several weeks of waiting until the next day to respond to this stuff, and not just, oh, there's a shiny object, or, oh, somebody needs me, and just see if I can. And again, I want to encourage you, if you fail, just either dial it back a few hours or just try again, but don't give up, because you didn't get into this pattern in a day or a week. So thinking we'll get out of it in a day or a week is not fair to you.
True.
And then the second thing is for you to really think about, how do I focus my best version of myself in a day? I mean, for instance, if you're just going for walks and later in the day exercise time would be good, you could go to a mall, you could be a big air-conditioned space that you walk in, because rather than say, well, I have no choice but to go early.
No, you're right. I sometimes do walk in laps around my apartment, you know.
But I understand if it's too hot, you should do it at a time that's not punishing to you. It should.
Yeah.
But if you really could spend a couple hours in truly creative, magical, golden hours, Justin said, and then go for the exercise to rejuvenate yourself, and then take on the next task, I think you should experiment with what's the ideal day for you.
Okay.
And if it is workout first, that's fine. But I don't want you to use any of your really creative time working out, because you can do that when you're not creative, when you're kind of yuck.
Right.
Yeah.
But usually like between like 2 and 4 in the afternoon.
Right.
Yeah.
That logi time.
What did you call it?
Logi time, where you feel all logi.
Yeah. Right.
But I would just try those two things, and I would do it for a couple weeks. I would think if a pattern emerges that either one is not, you don't feel like you're making progress, we should talk again, because then I guessed wrong, or you faked me out with something, and this isn't as important as you thought it was.
It's important.
But I want you to remember, every business is perfectly aligned to produce the results it currently produces, and you as the business owner, as the business right now. Yeah. So you've got to remember that doing what you do now is going to produce this outcome that you've said to us isn't good enough for you.
Right. It's not.
Right. So keep doing the same thing is going to get us the same outcome, and hoping it'll be different is, that's Einstein's definition of insanity.
Right.
So.
And it feels that way sometimes. It feels like I relate to when you say the anxiety of that is kind of calmed by doing activities.
Mm-hmm.
Because I can convince myself of anything, like being important.
Right.
I have, natural strengths that help me to see the bright side and also see how strategically something could make an impact. So I use those strengths really to justify rather than to produce.
Right.
And I'm aware of that. So I'm glad that we did this. I'm glad that we talked about this. There are going to be people in my life who watch this who are going to be like, I've been saying that to you. But here's the thing, and I'd love for you, if you've got a few more minutes, to just share some stuff about you. Like there are people who we each will listen to differently than we'll listen to someone else.
Mm-hmm.
Especially, I mean, you and I have spoken now several times, and I do feel really comfortable with you being myself and being honest, and calling you on some things as well. But we are not like best friends to the point where I feel that you'll be biased in some way, or that you have any kind of relationship dynamic with me that makes you feel like you know me better than I know myself. You just know patterns, right? So you've seen this kind of pattern in CEOs of major organizations, which of course say things better is at the beginning of becoming. But what is it about people like us who are the ones, the big dreamers, the go for it people? How is it that people like us who are so smart, who are so passionate, end up so stupid about our own day?
Well, I think in fairness to you, it's not being stupid. Think about it as you have to think systemically. So every human being is engaged in some sort of a system, whether it's your family, it's your organization, it's your community, it's your church, whatever it is, it's a system, and there's pressure in that system. So in your case, you've talked to us today about pressure to make a living, pressure to create enough of a compensation gap that you could actually be more charitable, that you could do things for other people, that you could make a greater contribution. And so that's a pressure on you. And it's that pressure that's making you feel bad because you can't fulfill that part. And you can't fulfill the part because there are other parts you are committed to fulfill. That is, you want to be responsive. And so, as I said to you before, responsiveness is a higher priority to you than productivity. What we're suggesting with this experiment is we're going to shift those and say, I think a number of your friends are going to tell you this. It's really hard. People have told me this for years, and I say, yeah, whatever. But you're actually going to find that if you're consistent, you don't need to be immediately available to people. If they want to be able to count on you, and if they know within 24 hours that if you were a person that they could count on hearing from in 24 hours, that would put you in a very small set of reliable people in humankind. And it's not that people are good or bad. It's that some people have so much going on, they can't possibly accommodate all the requests they get in the time that they have. And so the people that are more effective, and this is a real problem for both business owners and CEOs, it's really hard to find who you can talk to, who, as you say, won't bring a bias or isn't trying to frame things the way you want to hear them and will tell you what you need to hear. That's probably the biggest problem for CEOs is how do I get the information that I need to hear that I may not want to hear, and therefore people who work for me are like, "Oh, I don't want to upset her. I don't want to upset her." So they don't tell that, and then you can't tell what's going on because nobody will tell you the real deal.
Or they don't want the drama. of,
They don't want the drama.
bringing
They
up
don't want
something
the
that they think
blame.
will upset me. Right.
Right. And they don't know what it means to them. Is this going to affect my promotion? Am I going to be in the inner circle? All those sort of questions come up. For the entrepreneurs all by themselves, it's all about how do I make customers happy so I get more customers? But if I'm eating away at my productivity through making people supposedly happy, I'm not really sure you're even doing that. I think to the extent that people know, well, I'll just ask Lila because she'll drop what she's doing and come help me. I don't think those people are doing you any kind of a favor to play that game with you.
I don't know that they are. I think that it is me playing the game one-sided. And I think that this experiment will probably highlight that for me, and perhaps give me some more confidence in my relationships.
Yeah.
At all levels.
Yeah. Well,
Justin Douglas has brought up something here I'm going to pin.
Yeah.
He says there is a balance to be aware of. I would never advise chasing money for money's sake. Often the things that give us the most joy and passion are not all about the money. And that's true for me more than for anybody. I don't care about the money. I just need it in order to do the thing that I care about in a bigger way. I do need it. Like,
even among people who are fabulously rich, money in most cases is just sort of a scoreboard item. It's how they keep score. It doesn't really matter. Nobody knows. There's no such number that's enough. Jeff Bezos doesn't stop working hard because he's now the richest man in America. Well, big deal. But I think you're right. I think if you do what you love, the material world will sort itself out. And if you don't love what you do, there's no amount of money we could pay you to make it worthwhile.
Right. Yeah. And so with me, with the things that I do that I like enough, do you advise doing more of those than putting my time into chasing after things? So here's an example. This just came up pretty recently. I got some insights into who my customers are, who the demographics are of the people who pay me soonest to do the work that I love to do.
Right.
And I noticed that in the breakdown, white women respond to me the most in their 40s. White women in their 40s or so respond to me the most. That's like my key. And then white men who are 40s, 50s, somewhere around there as well, 30s. And so like my age and a little older than me. And so I'm aware of that. It's my personal value to be intentionally inclusive of diverse audiences. I want to reach those other people, but it's going to take me 2 to 3, possibly 4 times the effort to get Black women to work with me. They're the lowest converting. There are women who are like in an other category who convert higher. There are, Black men will work with me sooner than Black women. I want to work with the Black women, but it would take so much more from me to get that business or to bring them into my circle and give them what I know I have to offer. So this is like a values choice with the insights. I can make a choice to put my time where the values are, developing that audience, or I can make a choice to go where the revenue is now and then use that money to like maybe scale some marketing out to more targeted audiences that maybe pull in those people, who are values aligned. It's these kinds of choices that feel like.
Yeah, I think we've got to be clear about some of the terminology. I mean, one is there's a set of measures that every business has. We call it metrics that matter. And I think you have to be careful. For instance, it might have just been a casual term for you, but if you said the people who pay you soonest, that's a sort of cash flow view. I think you really need to think about how do I create value for people and which people do I create value for? I mean, it's great that you want to work with Black women, but until you can communicate to any audience what the value is you can create for them, it's just a wish. It's like wishing that you weren't so distractible. It
might be that I don't create enough value for them.
It may be, but you'd have to measure a different thing. Like, that Value is usually measured by how much they will pay and how often they'll come back. And so if you're looking at your demographics from the quickest payers, which if you're living in a stressful cash flow situation, whoever pays the soonest is a really important metric to follow, but it's not $1 million metric. And so if you
I like that. I think that's important for me to know.
It is. And I think you got to think about, how do I create value? Because the more value I create, the more I can charge for my service. That's what drives that's what value is all about.
Right.
The price is attached to what value people experience. If they don't experience the value, then the price becomes irrelevant. They don't want it. And so I really think as you go ahead and you think about, I think you have to be careful, all of us do. It's great if what you like to do and what creates the greatest value line up perfectly, but you're not going to just be able to go on whether you like it or not and ever get the answer about value.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got to think about how do I create value? Because that's also the heart of your marketing message is, how do I create value for people? And then what do I do that causes that creation to occur? And now the owner, sure, you should spend most of your time doing things you like and delegate or outsource the stuff that you don't like bookkeeping. My wife does the bookkeeping. Yeah. She's brilliant at it. I'm awful at it. So she does that, and she talks to the accountant because I'm glazing over in the first 5 minutes. I should be better at it, but I'm not. And I don't put any energy into it. I understand the reports. I look at the reports, but that's not my thing. I'm spending my time trying to meet people and design learning experiences and coaching people, because that's how I create value. And I find that when I focus on value, the money takes care of itself. I don't think about the money.
So do people find you? Are people referred to you?
Well,
how do people know?
Yeah, my favorite marketing approach is answering the telephone. I think I told you that one.
Yeah. Which is great if it keeps ringing.
Yeah, when you've been around for decades like I have, that can work. But I have a new problem I haven't had before, and that the people I know in most businesses are aging out and retiring. So I've got to meet a whole new generation of people who make the decisions to hire a guy like me, because everybody, I'm leaving the firm. I'm going to retire. I'm starting my own business. I want to do what you do. I'm like, geez, you're going to be a competitor. We're not going to talk anymore. Get out of here.
Yeah.
But that's a new problem. And so between the COVID, you and I talked about this, between the COVID, I had to figure out, okay, how can I do what I do in person virtually? The coaching is not a problem.
No, we're doing it right now. Yeah.
Right. The live training, the working with teams, the team building kind of stuff, that's much more complicated and difficult. And so I spent all my time trying to figure out how you do that, whether it's, getting 10 family members on a Zoom call to play around with the Zoom controls and put up with a 3-year-old being amazed that he can see mommy in 2 rooms at the same time, while you're learning how to use the tools that you're going to need to play the game in a different milieu. So I think we all are. I think every business
is making this. Yeah. You're not alone in that. Right. Well, there are a lot of different kinds of people who are watching this call, and I do want to count myself among that next generation of people who are going to, pay you the big money to do the thing that you do that is the big value. Right. As my company grows, I am that person. You have reached me. We also met through introduction.
Right.
Somebody else told me about what you do in a room with a bunch of people. And I was like, oh, I got to meet that guy. So, with the next few minutes, we have a ton of people watching who might have some suggestions about different tech platforms. I'm going to be getting Ed Arsinway from Zoho on a call in a few weeks on one of my shows to talk about Showtime, which is a live platform where you can do different kinds of events. Welcome to join for that. But talk about those kinds of events that you do that are live, in person, the group trainings. What are you doing when you walk in the room? And do you already know before you go in, or are you there and then you feel something and then poof?
It's more go in and engage. I mean, I was trained as a therapist 100 years ago. I didn't really like psychotherapy as a business because I find it hard not to get entangled in the emotion of my clients. So, after a couple of really crappy Christmases, because all my clients were depressed, I thought, I can't do this. What it did teach me, though, is I have to really understand where the person I'm talking to is coming from. Mm-hmm. And so what I do in the early parts is I try to provoke the group into understanding, one, this isn't your typical workshop. And two, I've done my homework. I know what's working and not working in the company. And so I call it out. And a lot of times I say things out loud that everybody knows, everybody believes, but nobody talks about. And then I try to connect to people by those people who are part of that organization are actually in collusion about that outcome, even if they hate it. They're
in collusion?
In collusion. They're not
perpetuating it?
Well, yeah, they're contributing. They're making a contribution to the problem, and getting people to own that piece of the mess is what my work is about. Because until you own it, thinking that, well, I just need to get Lila to be different and then that'll sort everything out is not a way. So, and my main topic I teach on is leadership, which is how do you take responsibility to mobilize people to move forward in the name of progress, not just for variety, not just change things up because another color would make us feel better, but really get a different outcome more appropriate to where we need to go or who we're trying to serve. And so, I am a little direct because, I meet people who've had decades to become the people they are, and I get like anywhere from a half a day to 2 days to change that wiring. And so I haven't got time to sort of mosey up to it. We got to get to it.
Yeah. Fucked around
over virtually
in Brooklyn. Yeah.
It works virtually. You just have to find the, behind here, what you can't see behind the camera here is I have a 42-inch TV screen. So when I have a gallery of people up there in a Zoom call, I can actually see their faces
That's cool.
now, and I can see expressions. I can see who's sweating. I can see who's nervous. I can see who's angry. And those are all responses people choose. I'm just going to provoke them to get enough heat in the room. We, put up the pressure to get people to say, I don't want to stay here. Let's talk about how to get out of this place we're in.
So you're creating a pressure cooker, knowing already what the truth is, and that the more pressure you put on, the more truth will come out.
Well, I don't know if I call it truth, because everybody has a version of what's happening. And the magic or the requirement, I would say, of organizations is you've got to get together with other versions of what's happening and coordinate them in a way you can all work together.
It'd be nice if our country ran that way.
Yeah. Well,
that's a horse of a different. That's another conversation.
It's a very divisive time, which is very troubling to me. But I'm trying to bring as much leadership as I can to the world, because we clearly don't.
Yeah. Well, we need it. I mean, I think that it brings up an interesting point about the pressure and what happens to leaders or people who didn't even see themselves as leaders in a pressurized environment. So if we look at COVID-19 and the pandemic and quarantine as a time of high pressure for all of us, some people have crumbled and some people have risen. Some people have created and some people have retreated. And not that there's one thing that's better than the other, but it does tell us a lot about who we have around us and how we'll respond.
Yeah, I think the first problem with leadership is it's been badly served by definition and research. I mean, we basically, there's so many versions of what it is that it really is a relatively meaningless term. But my definition, I separate authority, which is the structure we require of protection, direction, and order, that people know when I come to work on Monday, I'd like it to look like it did on Friday. It doesn't have to match it, but it has to be familiar. I have to have a sense that I'm going to be okay on a day-to-day basis. And if I don't have that, then I'm not going to trust the person in charge. Leadership is a different thing. Leadership is an activity that says, I see something unproductive that doesn't serve our collective purpose, and I'm going to interrupt that and try to get us to be more productive in that way. And so
the leaders are the interrupters.
Well, even that term leader, there's a tremendous seduction that's going on in most organizations today. We can get people to do things that they wouldn't do on their own. We can get them to do almost anything. And many people who are listening, probably this is happening to them now, they don't realize that we call them a leader. And so the next time somebody says to you, you're a real leader, you should ask yourself, what are they trying to get me to do that I'm not likely to do on my own? And so this idea of everybody
by being labeled as a leader?
Yeah, that being called a leader is very attractive to all of us. Everybody wants to be thought of as a leader. But when you look at the behavior, is the person trying to protect their role and stay? That's what I think. That's how I interpret what's happening in Congress is everybody's trying to keep their seat. So they're doing what they think they should do to keep their seat, not to solve the problems that face the country.
Yeah.
And then if they're trying to keep their seat, we call that sort of retreating into authority. The people who are trying to change the game to get a better outcome are what I would call that people trying to exercise leadership, trying to interrupt. I would think the peaceful protest, the indication that we're not going to just stand by and watch African Americans gunned down in police situations is an act of leadership. Now, the exploitation of that by looters and vandals is sullying that message. But that act to say, look, okay, we've said we're not going to take it anymore long enough. Now we're going to try to actually make it hard for you to ignore us.
Making it hard for people to ignore us is something that is hard for, I imagine that's hard for most new leaders to do, right? People who are not in the C-suite, but often, and I've been in this position where I've been at a company where I am, middle to upper management, directing the people, and I report to C-suite. And it is there where you see retreating into authority. Right. And then there's me, always, my whole life, unafraid of saying anything to anyone. I'm assuming that eventually like someone is going to shoot me because of who I am, like this, but I'm not the one who's afraid to say this isn't working, let's try this instead. But if you say it and you say it and you say it and you try and you get buy-in and you start doing it anyway, and then it keeps getting squashed from above, right, it creates a different kind of pressure, like the kind that squeezes people out of the pot, right, especially the good people. So what do you do when you're in an organization and what comes out is that the problem is right there at the top?
Well, there's two things that are true. One is the higher you go in the organization, the harder it is to exercise leadership. The pressure intensifies, the competing commitments intensify. The fact that you're responsible for everything makes it harder to change it, not easier. And the final one is you've got so many people telling you what they think you want to hear, you can't tell what's happening. Wow. The only mistake you can make in exercising leadership is try to do it alone. And so a lot of people get killed off because they try to take on the problem by themselves. And it's very easy to shut up one person. It's slightly more difficult, but still easy to shut up two people. But if you come with 12 people or 20 people or 200 people, it's much harder for them to say, oh, pay no attention to the noise. Now, every person, the person at the top and the person making the Lila move here, the disruptive move, has to understand what they're authorized to do. Because if you're just doing what's expected, you're still living in the hierarchy and keeping the system operating the way it is. Mm-hmm. If you step outside what's expected and interrupt the hierarchical design in the service of progress, not just to be disruptive, right, not to be a pain in the butt, but to really say we can't treat customers like that, or we can't allow that kind of error to happen in our value chain.
Safety concerns, absolutely.
Leadership. Yeah. Right. But then you got to get back into what's expected of you. So I don't think you've left your responsibilities. So that we call it dancing on the edge of your authority. That is the activity known as leadership.
Well, as long as there's dancing, I mean, count me in. Yeah. Really, Lori Knudsen just said this has been a great discussion, and it absolutely has. I got so much value out of just like the first, 2/3 of this conversation that I've been able to take more of your time, pick into your brain just because I have you captive here on my StreamYard and out to LinkedIn and YouTube. But I appreciate you so much for agreeing to work with me, for allowing me to go through this experience in front of other people. It's not just vulnerable for me to share who I am, but also vulnerable for you to be observed doing your fantastic work. So thank you for bravely sharing yourself and for bringing so much to me and to this audience.
Well, you're very welcome. I hope it's been helpful to people, and I hope you can follow through and make progress. I'm very optimistic, but I hope you can.
Well, you'll hear from me.
I'm aware. I better.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much. And thank you all for joining us. We are signing off, that you can find this replay on the Say Things Better YouTube channel or on LinkedIn.